The atom and understanding how it works is also going to be very important for you. So an atom is the smallest individual unit of an element on the periodic table, and it's going to have certain properties that we can actually grab from the table. And so let's use boron. We're going to take this element B, we're going to use that as our example. So you see we've got a number above it, or at the corner, number 5, and then underneath it we have this 10.81 number, and I'm going to point out a couple of things. So in an atom, what we call Bohr's model of the atom, where you've probably seen before, you're going to have these kind of circles with electrons. It's going to show the electrons going around. You'll have a nucleus in the middle, with your protons and neutrons. So that's one thing that's important. So this middle part of an atom, we call that our nucleus, and that is made up of our protons and our neutrons. And then in an outside cloud away from the protons and neutrons, we have our electrons. And as you can probably imagine, our protons they have this positive charge. Our electrons are electric, they have a negative charge, and our neutrons are neutral, they have no charge. And those are some things that will be important to keep in mind. Now, how do we know how many protons, how many neutrons, how many electrons an atom has? The great thing is the way the periodic table is set up, and it's set up this way because of the order of elements, and when Mendeleev set up the periodic table, he understood inherently what we were going to find, what we had found, and what we were going to find in terms of how atoms behave. So we're able to take this number 5 here, and that is going to tell us, this is our atomic number, and our atomic number tells us how many protons we have and how many electrons we have, because in a neutral atom we have to have the same number of protons as we do electrons. So for this, I have 5 protons for boron, and I have 5 electrons. And my number of neutrons are the thing that can vary. My number of protons is never going to change. If my number of protons changes, my element has to change, because this number on the periodic table is always associated with that element. So my number of protons for an element is always the same. My number of electrons for the element can change slightly without changing the identity of the element, but that's something that we'll get into later. And then my number of neutrons really is what's going to be this kind of wild card that we don't necessarily know.